This is DZR in JWP, a discussion of topics about Danzan-Ryu Jujutsu using the JWP, or Japanese Word Processor. I'm your host, Professor George Arrington. In this video, we're going to talk about the board names, and the name board comes from when Professor Okazaki had his dojo in Hawaii. He painted or had painted the names of the techniques on large wooden planks or boards, and so they would pull out a particular board and work on that particular set of techniques. Now his system is divided into about 4 different areas, and what we're going to look at today are the beginning area of the Danzan-Ryu system. Let me put that back into place here. There we go. Okay, and that's called the Shoden, which means the beginning transmission. And we'll go ahead and write that out here and let you see what that looks like. Sho looks like this. I'll write it out in hiragana first. Shoden looks like that, and the kanji for that would be this. Sho looks like that. That means beginning. It's also pronounced hajime. So when you're greeting somebody, when you say to begin in a judo match, you would say hajime, which means to begin. So that's the same character, and it's also the same character as in Shodan, beginning black belt level. So there's Sho, and then Den is written this way. Okay, and that means transmission or tradition. And let's just look at those. Control I, we'll pull up that. And this Sho means first time or beginning. And the Den means transmit or tradition or legend, and a couple of other things there. So that's Shoden. Now, just as an aside, the term Den is this character is the modernized character for an older kanji, Den, which is not, in this particular word processor, is not readily typable by typing in Den. And so what I have to do is I have to build it using the radical lookup button. And for those of you who've seen some of the other videos, you'll know about the radical lookup. You can see those videos on my other playlist. But anyway, so this the other Den character is made up of that and of that piece. And looking through it, it's this particular character right here, and we will insert that into the file. Close that. And so this Den is the older version of this. This is the modern usage. And when we hit the information button, you'll see that it means to transmit. But it is indeed the same character. They now consider it an uncommon character. Okay? So either one is correct. It's just that this one is the one that was used back when Professor Okazaki was doing his thing. Okay, so what list of techniques comprise the Shoden? Okay, well, they are comprised of, I think I can erase this one. I'll pull this up. Okay, they're comprised of these 4 lists of techniques: Yowara, Nagite, Shimete, and then the Yonenbu no Kata. Okay, so what do those look like? Well, Yowara, I think we discussed this in a previous video, but we'll go ahead and say it. The hiragana for Yowara looks like this: Yawara, and that's the way that Professor Okazaki named this particular board. Now there is a kanji for that. Let's see, Yawara Kai, and it's not that one. It's this one here. This one right there. And if you write it that way, then it's in Japanese. It's obvious that that you're talking about yawara, and I'll take off the ka. So yawara. But if you just use this kanji here, this kanji is more often read as ju, which means gentle, and people think of judo or jujutsu. So that character, he didn't want to use that character for yawara because people might get confused with the word ju. So he actually wrote out the yawara, and that's typically done when you're using Japanese and you want to specifically use a certain voicing or a certain pronunciation of a character. Okay, so that's yawara. Okay, and then the next board that you learn is the nagete, and so nage. Oops, let's before I do that, let's write it out in hiragana. Nagete, and that looks like this. Nage. I'll just use nage, and that is the character for nage right there. And I'm going to leave this on for a reason, and you'll see here in a second. When I show you this character, it says to throw or discard or abandon or launch into, hurl. Okay. And it's a verb which means to throw, nageru. And so when we just, if we were to write out nage, this kanji with the ru or the a different verb ending, then we would understand what it meant. But now here it's a noun, nage, a throw, versus throwing, a throw. Okay, and so we'll say nage, and then te. We've seen this before in other videos. This means hand, but when we do it like this, see, there it is, it's hand. In this context, however, the te means a technique, something that is done as a technique. It's a counter, if you will, for techniques, or it's a classification of something. So these are techniques of throwing, nagete. All right. So that's what that looks like. And sometimes you'll see it without the verb ending, but I'm going to leave the verb ending there to be a little more pedantic about it. Okay. Okay, next one, shimete. So let's look at that. That's shimete. All right, and let's find out what that means. Okay, so shime, and that's the kanji for shime. And there are other characters that can work for that we may see in a future video. But anyway, shime means to strangle, constrict, or to wring, like wringing out a towel. And as you see here, we'll look at the second line because that's more applicable here. Shimeru, which means the verb, the infinitive form of the verb to strangle or to constrict. Okay, so that's shimeru, or strangling. So I'm going to leave the verb ending on there because now it changes it to a noun. And again, we'll put in the te, which means technique. So shimete means strangling techniques. Okay, and actually on our board, our shime board, there's strangling techniques, but there are also other kinds of constricting techniques, constriction of the arm and leg and other parts of the body. So shimete. All right. And then finally, we're going to look at the yonenbu no kata. Well, what's that all about? So this one will say yonen. And I may get this wrong, so bear with me here. Yeah, I did. Okay, sorry about that. Now, and actually, let me before we get into that, let me go up here and write in the correct hiragana, and that would be yo. See, that's what I did wrong before. It's the elongated oo sound. Yo, nen, bu, no, whoops, in, no, kata. Okay, and we'll see some interesting things with this as well. Okay, so yonen bu, and bu is that character. The no, I'm going to just leave as a hiragana for now. And then kata, we're going to not use that one. That was kata like in kata te. We're going to use this one. Okay. So let's go through and look at this and see what's going on here. So what does yo mean in this case? When we look at the meaning of that, it means infancy or childhood. So when we use it with the word here, which means year, nen means year, you might say, well, gee, that must mean like childhood years. And when taken together, if I pull up my dictionary, and for those of you who are using JWP, here's the dictionary button. Okay, it means childhood or infancy or childhood. We can just say this refers to kids. Okay, kids. Now, bu, this bu here means bureau or section or department or class. Okay, so especially class, that might suggest something to you. Let's put them all together, and actually, I'm not sure if the dictionary has this whole thing together. No, it doesn't. That's fine. But basically, yonenbu, the yonenbu refers to the kids' class. Okay, so in Professor Okazaki's dojo, a lot of the pictures show that there was a lot of kids that were studying at his dojo, and so this is the kids' class. So kids' class. All right. Now, this no here is a Japanese what's called particle, which is a form of speech that allows you to connect things or to show verb endings or parts of speech and things like that. In this case, the no is a possessive. Okay, so this is like saying children's class apostrophe s in English. It would be the possessive, and then kata. This kata means the forms or the style or the shape. But in this case, it's the form. So the forms that are learned in the children's class. So in Professor Okazaki's dojo, they had the yonenbu no kata, which meant the kids' techniques. Okay, the kids' kata, if you will. Okay. Now, one other interesting thing, and by the way, kata can I'll just show you another version of that, which you see sometimes. So you have that kata, but you also have this kata here, which means a mold or type or model. So it's similar in term, in meaning, but when we're talking about the forms, then you use this particular kata. Okay. Now, in an earlier video, I talked about how you might use katakana as opposed to hiragana. In fact, before 1950 or so, a lot of times the particles that we see here for either verb endings or for possessive or for the object or predicate were made by using katakana. And so here we would say yonen bu, and then we would use this particular no. So that's the katakana no. kata. So when you look at the scroll of, oops, this is most recent use there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so when we look at that one, this is how it's seen in the scroll. Okay, Yonenbu no kata, and that's because it was written prior to them standardizing on this. So today you would see it written this way, just like earlier we talked about den would be seen with the simplified kanji. Nowadays we use the hiragana for the particles, but back then they used this one for the particles. Okay, all right. So that's this video about the Shoden. One other thing. Sometimes you will see the names of these boards up here written as, and I'll switch over to ASCII mode here, as Nage no kata. And so that would be written, if you want to write it that way, or Shime no kata here. Let's write that one. Shime no kata. So you'll see it written that way sometimes. He didn't write it that way in his scroll. He wrote it as Shime-te, Nage-te. But sometimes you see it written as this way. And if you want to write it that way, then the kanji would be simply that word, no kata, or if you want to do it the old style, that word, no, with a katakana, no kata. Okay? Well, that's it for this one, and we'll continue with other board names in other videos. Okay?